that mean for head coach Kevin Stefanski? What does it mean for GM Andrew Berry? Jimmy Haslam was asked the question yesterday whether it is now or never for his GM and his head coach. Here's what he had to say.
I think it's really dangerous to say now or never. The NFL is unbelievably competitive. In our division, just Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, us, as most people think is the toughest division. So do we feel the best about our roster as we have going into this year? Do I think Andrew and Paul and Kevin have done a great job? We do. Are we excited about this year? Yes. To say it's now or never, I think would be grossly unfair. But we're excited about the year.
Yeah, look, I can understand the answer, but anything other than dismissing the question opens the door for problems internally if they don't get what they need to get out of Deshaun Watson. And he's there for 3 more years. So if they don't get something great out of him now, they're going to keep him. They're not going to trade him. They're not going to cut him. You got to change around him. So I think Kevin Stefanski particularly is at risk this year. If he doesn't draw up an offense that gets the most out of Deshaun Watson, it's not going to be Watson's fault. It's not going to be Haslam's fault. It's going to be Stefanski's fault. And that's the easiest spot for them to make a change to try to get more in 2024. Maybe it means hiring Bill O'Brien to come in and coach Deshaun Watson. I don't know. But it will be something different, I believe, in 2024 if they don't get the most out of Deshaun Watson this year.
I would agree with that, right? I'm not going to say, I know what Jimmy Haslam's saying there, now or never or whatever. That's dicey, and he's right. We hit on this a little bit in the spring. The AFC, I'm not willing to cancel out anybody in the AFC other than the Houston Texans. That's the only team I look at and go, I feel confident they can't make the playoffs. Everybody else, I go, they all can make it. So I could see Cleveland, even if they go 9-8 and Deshaun Watson has a great year and plays really well and they don't make the playoffs somehow, right? Kevin Stefanski should be good. He should be good to go. So I don't think it's playoffs or bust or all that. I think it's what you're talking about. Being a good football team and showing a tremendous amount of progress in Deshaun Watson and that offense are the biggest things they got to do here this year. But, yeah, agreed with you in the fact that it's a big year for Kevin Stefanski, and if it doesn't meet expectations, he'll be in big trouble.
And you know what? At the end of the day, it's not fair because I firmly believe that the same guy who decided he needed to have Johnny Manziel decided he needed to have Deshaun Watson, even if it meant upsetting the contractual apple cart, giving up 3 first-round picks. We're desperate for a franchise quarterback. I'm desperate to have a winner. Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback. I'm going to go get him, and I'm going to give him whatever I have to give him to get him here. It's Jimmy Haslam that bears the blame for this because I think big picture, most teams recognize this was a mistake. There were too many unknowns. There were too many risks. There was too much of a downside. Even though at the end of the day, there were multiple teams trying to get him, there was one team that came to the table with a 5-year, $45 million contract that just puts more pressure on everyone for this to work.
Yeah, agreed. It was a huge moment in our league history, over the last 2 or 3 years there. Come on. Deshaun Watson, all the things he was going through, he got the greatest contract in the history of football. Right? So, yeah, the spotlight, the pressure, everything's on you, Cleveland. You made this move and made your bed, and now you got to sleep in it, and you got to make it work. And that definitely adds pressure to the situation as well.
Again, the Browns, the great unknown this year, they could be great. They could be spectacular. They could thrive in this ultra-competitive AFC North and AFC. It all comes down to getting Deshaun Watson back to the guy that he was. Because I think one thing we can agree on, Chris, if they get the 2020 Deshaun Watson, the rest of the pieces around him, offensively and defensively, are dramatically better than what he had in Houston in 2020.
Definitely.
They could be a true contender. The range of all teams in the NFL, the range of potential outcomes for the Browns is the broadest of any of them this year. I can't think of another team that could go from Super Bowl to 4th place in their division. But I think the Browns fall into that category. And I guess the Steelers do too, kind of. But the factors there are different because we wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers do it. With the Browns, just who the hell knows how it's going to play out, and we have no way of predicting until it's time to play the game.
No, well, you're exactly right, and it's the AFC is incredible. Not that my quarterback rankings are in stone or whatever like that, but the top 9 guys I had, 8 of them were in the AFC. It's insane right now, like we've discussed. So. You're right. There's a wide gap there, a margin where you can see it anything for Cleveland. And I think there's probably some, you could team or two in the AFC West and AFC East that you could probably add to that thing where you'd go, I could see them being, 7-10 or being in the AFC Championship game. I mean, that's how crazy the AFC is this year. That's one of the main storylines I'm so excited for this season.
And you know what? With all that uncertainty, all that confusion, if you watch and when you watch the quarterback series on Netflix, you'll come to the conclusion there's a pretty good chance Patrick Mahomes is going to be hosting the trophy
when in doubt, bet on that guy.
But you know what? Even though they've got a chance to go back-to-back for the first time in 20 years, and this back-to-back championships, one of the reasons former Commissioner Pete Rozelle hated the lack of parity in the NFL, it's not going to be easy. It's not like you just show up and win 53-10. They're going to have to earn it every step of the way if they do it. So even if they do it, the ride will be pretty damn exciting and fraught with all sorts of perils and jeopardies because it's not going to be a given by any means. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.